My Silent Goodbye. Level 3, English Listening and Speaking Practice. Hello everyone, welcome back to Learn English with Stories. Today we will read and practice a calm, emotional and meaningful story titled My Silent Goodbye. This story is written for Level 3 English learners, so the sentences are clear, the vocabulary is friendly, and the pace is slow. As you listen or read, try to repeat the sentences out loud. This will help you improve your pronunciation, speaking confidence, and listening skills. The story you are about to hear is about change, growth, memories, and the courage to move forward quietly. I hope you enjoy it and feel connected to the message inside. Now, let us begin our story. The morning began quietly, just like any other morning. But somehow, it felt different the moment I opened my eyes. The soft grey light entered through the window and landed gently on the floor of my room. Everything looked calm. Everything looked peaceful. Yet inside my heart, something felt new, unfamiliar, and slightly heavy. I sat up slowly and looked around. My room was small but warm. There was a wooden chair beside my bed, an old lamp on a small table, and a plant I cared for every morning. The walls had tiny cracks, but I always thought they made the room look unique. This room held many memories, moments of joy, moments of sadness, and moments of quiet reflection. For many years, this room protected me. It watched me grow, cry, laugh, and dream. It was more than a place to sleep. It was a place that shaped part of my life. But today, the room felt like it was gently asking me a question. Are you ready to move on? I did not answer out loud, but I felt the answer inside me. Yes, I was ready. Ready to walk toward something new, even if it felt scary. Ready to leave behind what was familiar, even if it was comfortable. I took a deep breath. The air felt cool and fresh, as if the morning itself wanted to give me courage. I placed my feet on the floor and stood up slowly. This morning was the beginning of my silent goodbye. On the floor near my bed lay a small brown bag. It was not new and it was not large. I had used it for short trips before, but today the bag felt heavier in meaning rather than in size. I kneeled beside it and opened it gently. Inside, I placed my neatly folded clothes, one piece at a time. Then I added my notebook, the notebook where I wrote my thoughts, my dreams, my fears, and my lessons from life. It held years of my inner world, and I knew I could not leave it behind. Next, I placed a well-worn book inside, one I loved and read many times when I needed comfort. Its pages were soft, and the cover had small scratches, but the book carried hope. It reminded me that stories can heal, guide, and teach us. I looked around the room once more. Everything felt familiar. The old calendar I forgot to change, the plant I watered every morning, and the small notes on the wall that reminded me to stay positive. These small things were part of my everyday life. Leaving them behind meant leaving a piece of myself. But I understood something important. To grow, we sometimes must leave behind the places that shaped us. I whispered softly, "This is my silent goodbye," and closed the bag. When I stepped outside, the village was still half asleep. The sky was light grey, and thin clouds floated gently above. The ground was cool and slightly wet from the night rain. I began to walk along the narrow path. The first place I passed was the bakery. Even though it was early, the smell of warm bread drifted into the street. It was a familiar smell that always made me feel at home. I continued walking and passed the small school. I remembered watching children play there every afternoon. Then I walked past the tiny shop where I bought tea and biscuits every week. The owner was kind and always greeted me with a smile. Every corner of this village carried a memory. But today, I did not speak to anyone. I did not wave. I did not say a single goodbye out loud. Instead, each slow step I took was a quiet farewell. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Sometimes silence expresses emotions we cannot say. As I continued walking, I felt a soft sadness, but I also felt peace. This was the place that taught me kindness, patience, and gratitude. And today, I was thanking it in my own quiet way. As I moved farther from my home, memories began to appear, clear, gentle, and full of emotion. I remembered my teachers who always encouraged me. Even when I doubted myself, they believed in me. They taught me to read, to speak with confidence, and to think about the world beyond the village. I remembered my neighbour, a woman with a warm smile. She often shared fruit from her garden and asked me how I was doing. Her kindness was simple, but it meant a lot. I remembered my friends who walked with me after school, friends who listened when I needed to talk, friends who stayed by my side during difficult days. These memories wrapped around me like a warm blanket. But then other memories appeared too. I remembered the moments when I was afraid to speak, the times when I made mistakes, the days when I felt lost or unsure of myself, the nights when I stayed awake thinking too much about the future. These memories were not easy, but they were part of my journey. They taught me resilience. They taught me how to reflect, grow, and understand myself. As I walked, I understood something important. Our past is not something to run from. It is something to learn from. Every step through the village was a step through my memories. And with each memory, I felt myself becoming stronger, more aware, and more ready. This goodbye was not made of sadness. It was made of acceptance. It was made of understanding that the time had come to move forward. When I reached the edge of the village, I noticed someone standing near the road. It was an old friend, someone I had once been close to but had not seen for a long time. He looked surprised to see me with a bag. He walked closer and asked softly, "Are you leaving today?" I nodded. "Yes, I think it is time for me to begin again." He looked at me for a moment, as if searching for the right words, but instead of asking many questions, he simply smiled kindly. "I hope your journey brings you peace," he said. "You deserve to find the life you dream of." His words touched my heart deeply. They felt gentle and sincere. I did not know how to answer, so I nodded slowly. That moment felt like a true goodbye, the kind of goodbye that does not need long speeches or explanations, a goodbye filled with understanding. We did not hug, we did not take a picture. We simply stood there for a few quiet seconds. Then we went our separate ways. I walked forward, leaving the village behind me. The road stretched out long and empty. Trees stood tall on both sides, and the wind moved softly through their branches, creating a calm, whispering sound. At first, I felt unsure. Was I making the right decision? Was I ready for something new? But with every step, I felt a little lighter. It was as if a weight I had carried for years was slowly lifting. The silence around me did not feel lonely. It felt like a friend walking beside me. I thought about the world beyond the village, the places I might visit, the people I might meet, the lessons I might learn. I reminded myself that change is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes, change begins with a quiet step on a quiet morning. Sometimes, the bravest goodbye is the one you say in silence. The road was long, but it did not scare me. It invited me. It welcomed me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly ready for whatever waited ahead. The sun slowly climbed higher in the sky. Its light grew warmer, brighter, and softer at the same time. The clouds began to separate, and the blue sky revealed itself beautifully. As the sunlight touched my face, I felt something shift inside me. Hope. A calm, gentle hope that warmed my heart. I began to understand that saying goodbye was not the end. Goodbye can be the beginning of courage. Goodbye can open doors to new opportunities. Goodbye can help us discover who we truly are. My silent goodbye was not filled with sadness. It was filled with clarity. It was filled with the promise of a new chapter. I did not know exactly where my journey would take me, but I knew I was walking in the right direction. This was my path, my choice, my beginning. Thank you for listening to My Silent Goodbye.